I threw away my husband's late wife's photos and belongings as she is my competition, not realizing my husband preserved them to gift his daughter at her 18th birthday. Now he has asked me to get them, but they were long gone 2 years prior, and he is having a meltdown while his daughter cut ties with me. How can I reconcile? This is a throwaway, as I do not want this connected to my main Reddit account for reasons that will become apparent if they aren't already. I met my husband 4 years ago, and it was love at first sight. He was a widow and had a daughter now 17. It was tough to deal with, I won't lie, but I wanted to be with him so badly that it didn't matter. We got married 2 years ago, and we've had our struggles, I won't deny, but overall, it has been a very happy, love-filled marriage. At the beginning of our relationship, I was really jealous of his late wife. He had pictures of her around his home. His family loved her and talked about her. His daughter was the same thing. His friends were the same. It was tough. I was comparing myself to her. She was beautiful, intelligent, and successful. She was a great mother, friend, wife, whatever you can think of. I know that people don't like to speak ill of the dead, but I believe them when they say these things. I did speak to my then boyfriend about these feelings, and he even took down some of the pictures later in our relationship. Still, his house never felt like my home, as it felt like it was still hers. When we got engaged, we decided we would buy our own home, and we moved in right before we got married. Side note: this was very stressful with the wedding so soon after. Would not recommend. During the moving process, I found box after box of old photos and other materials. Photos of his ex, family photos, photos of them together, baby photos, everything. Some of these were Polaroids. They were so old. They had been together for many, many years and had so much history together. I don't know why at that moment I snapped, but I did. I threw the ones with her away. When we were putting photos up in the new house, I didn't put any of her except one with my stepdaughter. There was a box of her things, and I donated some of the items and threw the rest away. I even went onto the computer and deleted photos he had stored on there. At the time, I felt like I won, maybe. I don't even know what I was thinking this would accomplish, but I did it. For the past 2 years, my husband hasn't noticed. My stepdaughter turns 18 soon. She's a very intelligent girl. She graduated early, goes to a top-tier school, and is very well adjusted for someone who lost her mother so young. We have never been that close. I care for her. I do. But she never opened up to me and has never viewed me as a mom to her. I understand, but it hurts. Anyway, my husband's mom wanted photos of her, as she was putting something together for her. He went to look for them, and as you can imagine, they weren't there. He asked me about them, and I admitted everything to him, as I wasn't going to lie to him. He is very angry at me and can barely look at me. I've asked him to go to marriage counseling, but he refuses. I'm 13 weeks pregnant and am trying to manage the stress. He's devastated, not just for his daughter, but for himself. I know he loved his late wife very much, and if she was still here, he'd probably still be with her. He's been in tears half the time when he's speaking to me and won't sleep in the same room as me. I have tried to explain that I have felt guilty ever since and why I did it, but he doesn't care. He asked me what he's supposed to tell his daughter. Some of the materials I donated or threw away were really important. I know that I screwed up. I know that I need to make this up to my husband and his daughter, but I don't know how to. This was such a monumental screw-up on my part. I have always been jealous of her, and I did not handle my emotions correctly. I have tried to track down photos of her by other people, and while I did find some from his parents and her friends, her parents died when she was young, and she was raised by her grandparents, who are now dead. There aren't many out there. Reddit. I love my husband, and I want to fix this more than anything. I know that I am hormonal right now, and my mind is wandering around to every outcome that could happen. But what if this is the end of my marriage? I can't let that happen, and I need to fix this. TLDR. Around 2 years ago, I threw away photos of my husband's late wife. He found out, and now can't stand to be around me, and is so sad. How can I fix this? What can I do? I screwed up. I need help. Relevant comments. OP. I will not try to justify it to him at all. I know it is indefensible. He's never done anything to make me feel like he didn't love me. My mom asked me years ago if I was okay with this, as she didn't think I was. She was right. But I loved my husband so much already that it didn't matter to me. I have struggled with being impulsive before, but it's never been this bad. Say Thereshop. At the time, I felt like I won, maybe. She's dead. Of course you won. Jesus Christ. What you did was so beyond wrong. It was inexcusable. It was evil. Not just to him. But you threw away photos of your stepdaughter's mother. Because you felt you were somehow in competition with her. This is unfixable. If your marriage ends because of this, it will be because you made a horrible choice. All you can do is pray your husband forgives you. Get into counseling immediately. What you did was so ugly, you need to figure out what the hell is wrong with you that you would do something like that to somebody you claim to love. OP. I know that she's dead. I have always been jealous of her, and it was all in my own head. I was very insecure because I knew that if she was here, we wouldn't be together, and it drove me crazy. It wasn't right, and I should speak to someone alone about it. Update by daughter. My stepmother threw away my late mother's possessions 5 years ago. 6 years later. My 23F late mom died over 10 years ago. And over 9 years ago, my dad 49M remarried my stepmother. My stepmother and I were never close. I missed my mom like crazy and would try to talk to my stepmother about her. But she didn't seem interested. Every time my mother was mentioned, she'd stop engaging in conversation and just go on her phone or walk away. When I was 17, my grandmother had told me that she was creating something special for my 18th birthday. I asked for a hint, and she said it had to do with someone I missed a lot. That night I cried a lot. I knew she was going to create something to do with my mother. A while after that, my dad called me. He said he had bad news while sniffling. He said that my stepmother threw away all my mom's possessions. Not one thing was left. Not even sentimental items. I started crying, and my dad comforted me over the call, and then started crying with me. I know you aren't supposed to make major decisions when you are emotional, because it can lead to reckless behavior. But I was so mad and sad that I decided to drive to my dad's house. My grandmother opened the door, but I just walked past her. I went straight to my stepmother. I started yelling at her, calling her something along the lines of jealous and vindictive. I said a lot of vile words. I told her I never wanted to talk to her again. She tried to apologize, but I just blocked out everything she was saying. I ignored what everyone was saying and just left. Since then, my half-brother was born. I have nothing against him, but I barely visit him. My dad didn't immediately forgive my stepmother. He stayed for half-brother, and after 3 years of the couple's counseling and therapy, he forgave her, although their relationship was never the same. Some family members have told me I'm being dramatic. They told me to get over it. It's been 5 years. It doesn't matter how many years it will be since she did that. 5 since I knew and 7 since she did that. But I will never forgive her. No amount of apologies will bring back that stuff. Those memories. Second story. Delusional fiancé calls off the wedding because he isn't my first choice, believing he is my backup plan. I'm sorry if this whole thing sounds a little rushed, but my fiancé Ryan, who I've been with for 7 years, told me today that he's not sure whether he wants to be with me anymore. And I realize it may sound stupid, but I love him so much. It feels like my world is falling apart around me, and I don't know what I can do. This all started a couple days ago when we were celebrating our anniversary. We invited a bunch of people, including one of my closest friends, Ellie. She noticed my fiancé being affectionate towards me and made some stupid comment about how she told me so, that Ryan would be better for me than my ex Andy. My fiancé was a little confused and asked Ellie what she meant. Back when I was in college, Andy and Ryan both asked me out to the same event. I'd known Ryan since high school, and we'd always had something, but we weren't a couple. On top of that, he went to another college that was a half-hour drive away from me. Andy went to my college. His dorm was a 5-minute walk away, and he was someone completely new. I began to feel like my relationship with Ryan wouldn't be exciting enough, because we already knew almost everything about each other. With the added headache of being half an hour away from each other, despite Ellie's protests, I decided to go with Andy. I know my reasoning is beyond stupid, but I never thought that this decision had the potential to blow up my future. Ryan was already hurt that I declined his request to go on a date. I didn't want to make him feel worse by telling him that I was going with someone else, not that it mattered because he stopped talking to me for about 6 months. During this time, it became obvious that me and Andy weren't right for each other, so we ended it. When me and Ryan began talking again, I realized how much I missed him, and that he was perfect for me, so I asked him out. He was overjoyed, and that's how we got to this point. For the rest of the party, I could tell that his mood was off. He kept pulling away from my kisses and touches and responded to me with short, one-sentence answers. After the party, when I asked him what was wrong, he just said that he felt sick. For the next 2 days, he continued to be cold and distant. I had no idea what was happening, So I waited patiently for him to become comfortable enough to tell me. Today, he told me the reason he'd been acting off. From the story, it sounded like I had kept him as my backup or plan B in case my relationship with Andy failed, and that it was especially messed up since we'd obviously had feelings for each other long before then. He also said that he deserved to be someone's first choice. I thought that this was just an insecurity that we could get through. But then he went on to say that he's not sure whether he can see our relationship in the same light anymore. So it might be best if we split up. I pleaded with him that we don't need to take it that far, and that we should go to counseling, or even just live separately for a few days, while he thinks about whether this is what he actually wants. So far he hasn't said anything, except that he absolutely refuses to go to therapy. I can tell that this is weighing on him heavily because he's been drinking more than usual. But I don't know what to say to make him feel better. We've had a beautiful relationship. He's never been overly jealous or possessive, and although neither of us are perfect, I couldn't ask for a more loving, respectful, intelligent, and charming soon-to-be husband. I don't understand how all of that could come to an end for a foolish mistake that I made 7 years ago. I don't know exactly what I'm looking for by posting on here, but if anyone has any advice, please let me know. TLDR. My fiancé found out that I chose to date someone else in college before him and says that he doesn't want to be my backup relationship, and that it might be best if we go our separate ways. Edit. I think I may have messed up on my wording. He doesn't care that I dated someone else before him. It bothers him that I had the choice between him and Andy, and I chose Andy. Update. So a few people have asked for an update. It's been a little over 2 weeks now, so I'm not sure if anyone is even interested anymore. I think for now I'm just confused about what's happening. If anyone has any advice, or has some idea of what he's thinking, please tell me. After what happened in the last post, he said that we should put off the wedding while we decide how to proceed. That means something, right? He used the exact words, put off, instead of cancel, and while we decide how to proceed. I think that means he hasn't decided that we should break up yet. Maybe he'll just decide not to get married, but to continue our relationship. I don't think he's ready to give up our relationship yet, but he's moved into a hotel. I know some people have told me to give him space, but I've decided that even if a part of him is willing to stay with me, I'm going to do everything I can to give me another chance. I've been dropping off food, leaving notes under his door, and we've been calling every day, sometimes twice a day. Right now we're both stuck in limbo. Most of the time we talk about how much we miss each other, the plans we had, and me convincing him that he's my soul mate, and that regardless of whatever happened with Andy, I know we would have ended up together. Then there are other moments where he calls in the middle of the night, having obviously been crying and asking questions like, what did he have that I didn't? Did you love him? Was he better in bed? Was he better looking than me? Do you still think he's better looking than me? What does more exciting mean? Do you wish he gave you another chance? He says that he wants to be with me desperately, but when he thinks about me, it's seared into his mind that I was always his first choice, but he will always have been my second. It hurts him that we had feelings for each other all the way through high school, but the moment I met Andy, none of that meant anything anymore, which must have meant I thought Andy was worth my time, and he wasn't. It breaks my heart to hear him holding back his tears and trying to cry silently, but I swear I'll do anything to save our relationship, and part of that means not hiding anything from him. I've begged him to reconsider going to therapy, but he absolutely will not budge. Some of our mutual friends are saying that they're not sure if he'll recover from this, but I don't care. He hasn't told me to stop trying, so I'm not going to. I wish to God that I could go back and change the past, because I love him more than anything, including myself. It feels like I'm in some sort of surreal nightmare. Less than a month ago, we were laying in bed fighting over which of us got to name our kids. And now a seemingly insignificant mistake that I made 7 years ago might wipe away the beautiful future I want with Ryan. All I can do right now is be there and hope that he can give me another chance. But I don't know what he's thinking. I know this isn't a common relationship problem, but if anyone has anything they can give me, whether it's advice or even reassurance that things are going to work out, please tell me. TLDR. Our wedding is put off for now. He's moved to a hotel, and we talk every day. But he hasn't decided yet whether he still wants to be with me. Edit. He called an hour ago. Some of his friends found this Reddit post and showed it to him, so he called angry, asking why I would tell strangers about our personal problems, and how he is supposed to face his friends and family, now after they all know that the only reason I'm with him is because Andy broke up with me. After reading the comments, he realized that it wasn't right for him to keep me in the dark for so long without making a decision. He's decided that we should go our separate ways so that I can decide whether it really is him that I want to be with, and that he wasn't just the convenient choice. For now, I can't describe how I'm feeling. It's like I'm so tired, I just want to go to sleep forever. I know some of you have the impression that he's a horrible man, but this was just a small fragment of our relationship and doesn't reflect who he is as an individual in the slightest. He's the guy who spent days learning about my major on top of his own studies so that he could help me study for exams and proofread my coursework. He spent thousands of his own hard-earned money to give my parents their dream vacation to Australia and insisted that I say I paid for it because they'd feel bad taking money from him. When my ex threatened to leak naked footage that I'd sent him when we were together, I was terrified that he would leave. He took me out to my favorite restaurant and said that there was nothing anyone else could do or say that would ever affect how much he loves me. And then he asked me to marry him so I'd never have to worry about him leaving ever again. My fiancé is the best man that I've never known. And the assumptions that everyone here has made from hearing about such a small part of our lives are disgusting. And I didn't come here for people to convince me that he's immature, insecure, or any of that. I should have known better than to post here. But all I can hope for now is that he sees this. To my fiancé, I don't know what I can say to make this better. And I don't know if you'll be able to heal from this. What I can say is that you are wrong in thinking that I chose you out of convenience. I chose you because you're the most thoughtful, handsome, intelligent, and charming man that I've ever known. Every single moment that we've had together for the last 7 years, every kiss that we've shared, every bagel that we've split, and every "I love you" that I've said was meant for you and was an affirmation that you are and always will be my first choice. I don't believe that you want to cut our lives together short. I think that you were trying to heal from the consequences of a mistake that I made. And then I inadvertently set a fire underneath you by forcing you to come to a decision by making this post. Take as long as you need to do whatever it is that you need to do to heal from this, and I'll be here waiting for when you're ready to talk. If you decide that this is something that we cannot overcome, I would accept your decision. But I know we are stronger than this. I love you so much. Edit 2. I know this is starting to get really long, but he read my open letter and got in contact with me to say that he's not promising anything, except that he'll listen. He still refuses to see a therapist because he doesn't view our relationship as strong enough that there's anything to salvage right now. However, some people here have expressed that they wish they could give him advice directly, and I've convinced him to talk to others who have experienced this and healed from it. If you've experienced something similar, please ask for his throwaway, either in your response to this post or by PMing me. Thank you. Update 2. Before I get into the update, I want to say that I asked my ex-fiancé before posting this, and he said it's fine as long as I don't give away any details that could reveal us to more of our friends and family. I've always been the type of person who values other people's input when it comes to making big decisions, and he knows that. A lot has happened since the last update. After we spoke, he went completely quiet for around 2 weeks for time to think. The waiting was almost unbearable, but he promised that as soon as he had an answer for me, he would contact me. I wasn't allowed to come to his hotel to drop off food, try to see him, or make any sort of contact. When he finally called, the first thing that he established was that our relationship was over. However, despite our relationship ending, he still wants to be with me. If I still want to be with him, we can restart our relationship completely from the beginning with the board wiped clean. In his own words, "While you look back at our relationship and see something wonderful, I look back at it in disgust because you lied by omission every single day." Initially, I was ready to agree on the spot, but he insisted that I take the week to decide whether I really want this. His logic is that if I choose to restart our relationship from the beginning now, he will be my first choice. Later on in the week, it began to settle what this would mean. I would go from fiancé back to girlfriend. I don't know when he is going to propose again. I don't want children until we're married, so I don't know how long that's going to be. In short, it would completely throw off the life plans we had. I asked for a little more time, and he doesn't want me to resent him in the future, so he agreed to give me as much time as I needed to come to a decision. This is a better outcome than I expected, and maybe better than I deserve. But I would be lying if I said that I don't wish things could go back to normal. I've decided that I'm going to agree to starting over. It just really hurts that the past 7 years don't mean anything anymore. Not long ago, we celebrated our 7th anniversary. But this time next year, we'll be celebrating our 1st anniversary again. TLDR. He broke up with me, but gave me the option of starting over with a new relationship as boyfriend and girlfriend. That would rectify my mistake and make him my first choice. I've had some time to think, and I've decided that I'm going to agree. Edit. He read the post and wanted to address some of the comments. If we do restart our relationship, he won't hold anything over my head. It'll be exactly as he said, and our relationship will start over completely. He's so confident of this that he insists I leave him if he ever slips up and brings it up when we argue. Some people have said that being first is just an arbitrary construct, but that doesn't mean anything. Marriage is a construct, monogamy is a construct, etc. Something being a construct doesn't make it any less real or capable of inflicting pain. A reminder that this isn't about me dating people before him. He doesn't care about that. He cares that I knew him for years, that we had a bond in high school, and that he waited until we were in college so we could officially be a couple. But I picked someone else I barely knew. It's come up very often that the length of our relationship should have some influence over his decisions. He says it does because it makes it even worse. I never told him about what happened during those 6 months while we were together. On top of that, I wasn't the one to tell him in the end. We know everything about each other, so he can only assume that I consciously hid it from him. I'm not insecure, fragile, or irrational. The fact is that our old relationship is now ruined in my eyes. It's ruined because she took away my ability to make an informed decision 7 years ago. If I had known the circumstances of her return, I'm not afraid to say that I would have told her to go F herself. Now I'm giving her the option to restart our relationship with me, knowing all the facts. This time will be equals. Third story. Narcissistic mom who abused me and my sister until we ran away from home and cut ties with her, now contacted me after 10 years, demanding to know about my daughter, calling my pregnant sister a B, who is more of a parent than my mom ever was. Then she threatened to ruin our lives, so I told her to go ahead. But it didn't go well. Apparently you get great advice here, so here I am. My parents are sadists. I really have no other way to describe them. The most vivid memory I have of my childhood is of my sister's back, as she stood in front of me to shield me from my mother. How insane do you have to be to hurl furniture and cutlery at kids? As for my father, he was a truck driver, so either he was away from home, or if he wasn't, then my sister was hiding me around the little nooks and crannies to keep me out of his sight. She was forced to grow up and did everything she could to protect me. I wish nothing but the best for her. The definition of a parent in my head is safety, comfort, and warmth. None of those things were provided by my dad or mom. My sister was the one who looked after me. She was the only reason I never lost hope in the concept of family. She took odd jobs as a minor to make sure we could pay for our stationery and bought a fourth-hand laptop so she could make some cash online that she'd transfer to one of her friend's brothers' accounts to get. Every toy, every new shirt, and every pencil I had was because of her. So you can guess just how much parenting my parents actually did. She is just a year older than me. Just 1 year. The only person in my life that ever even tried showing me the way was her. She told me her plan of getting a fully funded scholarship in another state and moving out. Then she'd earn enough to get a small apartment, even just a studio. And once my school was over, she'd get me out, and we'd think of something. That was our plan. But when the day she left came, I really couldn't stop crying. Just the thought of being alone with my mother, or, unlikely, my father was terrifying. I had never faced them alone. But when I was 4, my sister had started giving me these little lessons. She'd hide with me and watch our parents, point at their expressions and the smallest of changes in their voices, and tell me to avoid them when they made that face or sounded like that. That year without her was the most suffocating. It only made me realize just how protected I really was. It was just a day or two after I graduated that my sister texted me to start quietly packing my bags, and she came to take me away in the middle of the night. That was one bus ride I'd never forget. We moved into a studio she had bought, which really wasn't such a problem for us since we had always had to share a room in the tiny apartment we had lived in growing up. I part-time to make money. Honestly, back then I just wanted to be someone she could rely on. But she was literally the sort of person that even if I put money in her hands, she'd just stuff it in my bag the next day. So everything I made was form, while everything she made from her freelancing and other night shifts she did was for us. Our parents never reached out, and we spent a decade moving on with our lives. After the first year and a half, we moved into a bigger apartment. That was the first time we each had our own room. But we were so unused to it that we literally slept while watching movies on her laptop in the living room. I started my university in the next, and we managed. Neither of us really realized how deep our issues ran till the new friends we'd made pointed out how we never really opened up to anyone and didn't ever even try to find love. It was weird, because I think our subconscious knew we were messed up pretty badly inside, but our conscious never focused on it. It took a while, literally years, for us to date. It took a lot of begging and convincing on my part for my sister to give my now Bill a chance back then. I knew her since we were kids, so it was easy for me to tell that she treated him differently than most, a bit colder even, almost as if she was doing her best to keep him away. And really by that point, there was nothing I wanted more than for her to be happy. They worked out so well that just a year later, he proposed, and they had a court wedding with only a few people present. On the other hand, my sister was also the one who pushed me to pursue my crush, while my Bill managed how I dressed. Dude literally upgraded my closet in a week. We still lived in that apartment till I graduated and bought a new one with my then GF, now wife. Life was going so well that I think I jinxed it. My wife and sister are both pregnant right now. My sister's due next month, while my wife just found out a week ago that we're a month along. Neither I nor my sister are in contact with anyone from our childhood. We made sure they couldn't find us online either, and never posted anything personal just in case. But I recently got a message from my mother berating me for not telling her I was about to become a father. How the F she found my ID? I don't even know how she found out my wife is pregnant. There's literally no way for anyone besides the two of us to know, because we didn't tell anyone yet. I pretended not to know her and asked her who she was and why she thought she could talk to me that way. And she responded, "I'm your mother." The anger and hatred I felt when I read that line literally poured out as I told her that was a sick joke because my parents were dead. She blew up and told me how much I'd regret saying that, and that she'd get both me and the bee I ran away with my sister in trouble we'd never get out of. I told her to go ahead and try. This happened a week ago, and now that I've cooled off and kept it hidden from everyone else, I'm starting to worry about what she could do. I don't want to involve my sister so close to her due date, and I don't want to stress my wife. At this point, I'm just planning on getting my Bill alone tomorrow to talk to him. Update. In different account. It's been a while. Reddit isn't letting me post because I've been inactive for too long, so I'm using a throwaway. But the original post link is the one above. I got some really good advice from all of you and wanted to update you on the situation a bit. I talked to my Bill the very next day after making my last post. The dude's also a lawyer, so he pretty much laid out a few facts for me, especially about the requirements in our state to get a restraining order. We did hire a PI, and I talked to my sister about it. Honestly, I wasn't planning to, but after a few of you pointed out that this was something that involved her as well, I knew I had to. She took it pretty well, I think, and was more focused on ensuring our safety, because no one knew better than the two of us just how crazy that woman is. As for those of you suggesting my wife was the one who approached her, she wasn't. My wife's been in foster care most of her life. She's seen the worst faces of family. If there's anyone else I can trust to never go behind my back like that, it's her. Yeah, so we got a PI. And as it turns out, someone we knew when we were kids was the one who sent them a picture. Apparently the person had only seen and recognized me and a pregnant woman that I was helping beside me. So the picture he sent was of my sister and me. And that woman assumed she was my wife. We managed to get a restraining order on the basis of all the crazy texts she had been sending me since. And a warning was also sent to the man who had taken our picture without our permission. The best part of this all, however, was my niece. I have a niece. She's like a week old and came out before her due date. But she's so healthy and chubby. Literally the pinkest baby I've ever seen in my life. God bless her chubby little hands. Anytime I look at her, I just can't imagine how anyone would hurt a child. If you've watched B99, then you'll get it. I've only had her for a week and a half. But if anything happens to her, I'd kill everyone responsible and then myself. Also to the dude asking if we followed some get-rich-quick scheme and hit it big, I'm sorry, man. I mistyped. Our studio was rented, and we bought the apartment in installments from someone my sister had befriended. Thank you all for all the great advice. Hopefully no other issue comes up that has me running back here. Thank you for watching the video.